Gauteng provincial government is mourning the passing of Thabo Masebe, who's been remembered this week as an experienced, versatile and diligent public servant. Masebe, who was acting director general in the Gauteng Premier's office, passed away earlier this week. Let's talk about his passing now, because he'll be laid to rest tomorrow, Saturday, with the Gauteng Premier spokesperson, Vuyo. Mhaga. Mr. Mhaga, a very good evening to you. Welcome to News at Prime. You are one of the people who've paid tribute to Thabo Masebe since his passing was announced, because among the many young communicators, your career was very much influenced by his style, was it not?
No, indeed. He kept on influencing us. You are talking about a man that has got 2 years experience in the craft of communication. So I was just literally a student, and he was my mentor. And a lot of things that I've actually been doing are literally a reflection of his teachings. That whatever that we do, the people of South Africa come first, and no amount of government or a political party, but as long as we are true to South Africans, we'll be then doing our job.
And I listed some of the words used to describe Thabo Masebe this week. Among them is the fact that he was professional, he was open, he was fair. Let's talk about why that is so important, especially when you consider some of the times at which in recent history that he was speaking for the government. At a horrific time when the Esidimeni tragedy was unfolding, he was very much at the forefront of communicating the government response.
Well, I think it's the manner that he handled that situation, and I think even, the organization that we're representing, people who have tragically lost their lives there, it actually had a lot of humility in the manner he understood the pain that people were actually feeling, and he understood. So it was not just to speak, but it was also a bit of humility and a bit of almost understanding the kind of, the feelings that they were dealing with. So you had a communicator that understood that people must always come first in whatever that we basically do. So it was never dismissal. Even with journalists, you will actually take time to make sure that they understand his point of view.
And when I was looking back at some of our interactions that we've had with him, either on this platform or at other media houses, what came to mind was the ongoing conversation about professionalizing the public service, and how he, to a degree, epitomized that. In fact, not to a degree, perhaps fully, some would argue. And as a legacy issue, how do we then take those teachings and apply them to the broader public service in order to make sure that those are lessons that are not lost to government communications?
Well, it's really to understand that we are serving the people of South Africa. We are not really going to work to draw a salary. There's a much more broader colleague. And I think the public service and the public servants must always appreciate that they are relatively the chosen ones to really be in the forefront of resolving many challenges that is facing our country. So if you, for example, you talk about the unemployment crisis in South Africa, it must worry all of us as public servants. To what greater extent can we lessen the pain that our people are basically facing, including their frustration to the government? There was a narrative when he was actually sick last time. One of the things that when he came out from the hospital, when he was in ICU, was that we must give credit to the healthcare workers. On a daily basis, they make sure that they save our lives. And we have seen that during the COVID-19. And that is the attitude we must inculcate, not on an event called COVID-19, but generally the manner that we treat South Africans, the manner that we interact with them, because they go to government looking from one service or the other. They're not necessarily going there to have fun. And we must always appreciate that someone has left his house looking for their service, and we must do our utmost best to make sure that we serve South Africans. And through that, I think his legacy will live on.
And Mr. Masebe, as you say, was in hospital. This was around the Christmas period at the end of 2021. In the statement announcing his passing this week, the family basically said it came as quite a shock. How shocked were you to hear that he'd passed?
Well, we were shocked because on the Thursday, as you'll know, every Friday we issue the COVID-19 stats in Gauteng, so we had to continue that tradition. So at Thursday, we'll actually prepare for those dates for Friday. And he actually said, let's meet on Friday, and in the morning before everyone goes to church. And the team, we did meet. It was supposed to be 7 o'clock. We met around 8. So it was strong joking and sending instructions everywhere else. So when we received the news on a Monday, the first thing that I did, I dismissed the person was calling me, but no, there's nothing like that. I actually even tried to call him to joke with him to say, I hear that you are dead. And I only got a bit of a worry when no one was basically picking up the phone. So I had to call my chief of staff, who actually confirmed to be the case. So it was a shocker to us, because he was not sick, he was not in the hospital, he was actually fine, and he was running Gauteng government as an acting director general of the province. So we were extremely shocked, and we are still in pain, but I think over time we'll get fine.
He'll be buried tomorrow morning. As we then look ahead to that moment, which will no doubt be one of the most heartbreaking, as is often the case when you lose a loved one, what thoughts, what emotions come to mind for you?
Well, it's a void. As I'm saying, he was not only an acting director general, but he's someone that I was reporting to. And basically, it's almost removing a cover. So I can't look up and then see him tomorrow. But we are quite grateful to the president of the country to give him the special provincial funeral because it actually shows the stature of the man. So he was not an ordinary public servant. He was really has given all to the people of South Africa. He would have been anything if you have to understand that. At some point he served together with Peter Mhaga and that golden generation of the young lions. So he could have been a minister, he could have been anything, but he chose to be a public servant, and he did that beautifully.
Vuyo, good to have your time, so thank you very much for being with us tonight.